And welcome back, everybody. On this episode of the Rugby Review, we're going to be going through round 6 of the Major League Rugby, or the MLR. So let's take a look at the game schedule for round 6. And for round 6, there were 2 teams that were on bye this week. California Legion plus Anthem RC were both on bye this week. Those 2 teams kicked off the season round 1 and were the only teams that played round 1. So again, Anthem, California Legion, they get a bye this week, and the other 4 teams in the league, New England, Seattle, Chicago, and Old Glory, this round is their opportunity to catch up, so to speak, with Anthem plus California. So all teams after this round will have played the exact same number of games. So again, May 3rd, both games were played. We kicked off with New England Free Jacks versus the Seattle Seawolves, and that game was followed by the Chicago Hounds versus Old Glory DC. So let's take a look at the final scores of round 6. And the game we kicked off with, Seattle versus New England, was a strong victory, a 16-point margin of victory for Seattle. So Seattle gets back into the winners column after the results they had in round 5. And so Seattle won by a score of 27-11 over New England in round 6. So let's look at the stat sheet for this particular game. And strong game by the Seawolves, scored 4 tries, got the winning bonus point victory. And as we kind of go through this stat sheet here, there's nothing that would indicate a super dominant victory for the Seawolves other than handling errors for the Free Jacks. So again, bonus point victory for the Seawolves, having scored 4 tries during this game. They did have a slight advantage in the possession stat. Territory was split evenly, 50-50. With that slight possession advantage for Seattle, it does make sense that the Free Jacks did have to make a little bit more tackles during the course of the game than Seattle did. Free Jacks had to make 184 tackles to just 142 for Seattle. So a little bit of a difference there. Both teams are actually pretty good as far as tackle discipline goes. Neither of them had a huge number of missed tackles. Both had a comparable amount of meters gained during the course of this game. Free Jacks did have an advantage when it came to clean breaks. Free Jacks were much more efficient with their clean break opportunities on the missed tackles that Seattle had. So Free Jacks had 11 clean breaks on 18 missed tackles for Seattle. It's a really good conversion rate right there for clean breaks to missed tackles. Whereas Seattle had 7 clean breaks on 25 missed tackles for the Free Jacks. So again, Free Jacks did a great job converting those missed tackles into clean break opportunities. But as we look down at turnovers lost, I think this is what really killed the Free Jacks during the course of this week, is 15 turnovers lost, 15 handling errors, 15 times where they did have front foot opportunity, good offensive flow, and then they dropped the ball, got a knock on, had some form of handling error, and then coughed the ball back up to the Seawolves. So it's not that Free Jacks didn't have opportunities. It's just handling errors cost them and didn't allow them to take advantage of the opportunities they created, from my perspective. But anyway, strong bonus point victory for the Seawolves this week. This was kind of a battle of the bottom 2 seeds. So now Seattle definitely gets off that 6th spot, and then Free Jacks have kind of fallen back down there, but we'll confirm that a little bit later. So again, good strong bonus point victory for the Seawolves to get back in the winners column. A little bit of improvement for the Free Jacks in the handling error department, and then maybe around 7 the Free Jacks will get back into the winning ways. We'll see. Coming back to our score sheet here, the second and final game of round 6 was another very, very, very strong performance by Chicago. in which we see Chicago beating Old Glory by a score of 49-31. Now, as we move over to the stat sheet here, I will give Old Glory a little bit of credit. They walked away with a losing bonus point with 5 tries scored. But I think Old Glory is the first team this season to score over 30 points on Chicago. And I think this is also one of the first games where Chicago didn't win by over 20 points. So if there is a very small, pat on your back victory that Old Glory can take away from this game, it's the fact that they probably scored the most tries on Chicago this week and probably had the smallest margin of defeat against the Hounds. But with this result, this kind of emphasizes the point that Chicago, in my opinion, is the team to beat this year and the team that is most likely going to win this championship this year after falling short last year. Anyway, let's look over the stats here real quick. So a very high scoring game between both teams. Very entertaining game to watch. Again, Chicago won by a score of 49-31. Chicago had the advantage in possession, absolutely dominated the territory stat, forcing Old Glory to play a lot of defense. Old Glory had to make 205 tackles during the course of this game. Absolutely huge number. But they were pretty well disciplined in the tackle arena because Old Glory only missed 21 tackles on the 200 that they had to make. So, a lot of defensive pressure that Old Glory had to soak up, but they did an okay job with it. Now, as we look down a little bit further, where we can really see the dominance of Chicago this particular week is when we get to clean breaks. Chicago did a great job converting missed tackles into a lot of clean breaks. So Chicago had 12 clean breaks on 21 missed tackles by Old Glory. That is a really, really great conversion rate right there and gave Chicago a lot of opportunity to have front foot ball. Chicago was pretty efficient with their front foot ball this week, I will say. Scored more tries, had slightly less meters gained, but still were able to outscore Old Glory. Now, on the other hand, Old Glory only had 4 clean breaks on 30 missed tackles for Chicago. So Chicago had more missed tackles than Old Glory, but Chicago did a tremendous job converting the missed tackles to clean breaks. So that's, to me, the biggest difference there is, what is that conversion ratio of missed tackles to clean breaks? Gives you a lot of opportunities there. And then the only other thing that was a difference between these two teams this week was discipline. Old Glory only conceded 10 penalties, but compared to Chicago's 5 penalties conceded, Old Glory had quite a number of penalties conceded in comparison to the opposition. So, it's difficult, and as small of a detail as it might be, sometimes 10 penalties compared to 5 is a big difference. So again, super strong game by Chicago this week. To me, this performance puts a stamp on it that Chicago is the team to beat, and dare I say it's their championship to lose at this point in time, given how much dominance Chicago has shown over every other team in the league this year. But we're in round 6 out of 10, so there's 4 rounds left, so we'll see how the rest of the season plays out. Chicago could lose every game from here on out, but time will tell. So again, this is the last game of round 6. Let's take a look at the live ladder now. So again, all teams have played the same number of games. So every team has played 5 games now, so there's no teams that have that extra game played that may give them extra points, so on and so forth. But we see Chicago, again, still sitting at the number 1 seed in the league. California is right behind them. And right behind California is Seattle. So Seattle had a huge jump in the standings, in the rankings, from round 5 to round 6 with that strong victory over New England. In the 4 spot, we see Anthem RC. 5 spot Old Glory, and sitting at the bottom of the table for now is New England Free Jacks. Again, there's 4 rounds left, so we'll see what happens. There could be a lot of movement. New England could go on a crazy 4-game winning streak and end up sitting at the top of the table. So we'll see how the rest of the season pans out. Again, as of right now, it seems like it's Chicago's season to lose at the moment. And here, let's take a look at the game schedule for round 7. So, round 7, all teams are playing again. And this week's action kicks off May 9th, today, where we have the Free Jacks versus California Legion. And then the following day, tomorrow, May 10th, we have Old Glory versus Seattle Seawolves. And the final game of round 7 for the MLR is Chicago Hounds versus Anthem RC. So that's it for this episode for round 6 in the MLR. If you made it this far in the episode, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please hit the like button. Feel free to hit that subscribe button. Or if you know somebody who might be interested in this type of content, please feel free to share it with them. Have a good one, enjoy the rugby, and I will see you next time.